Hi, everybody, and welcome to Tech Talk, kidOYO's podcast segment on the dark mode live stream. So, with me today, I have a few people to go over our topic for the day. We have mentor Zekram. Zekram, can you say hi?
Hello, everybody.
So, give me 1 second. I cannot hear anybody. I'm going to fix that audio. Let's try that again. Zekram, can you say hi?
Hello, everybody.
All right, I'm gonna fix that, and I still can't hear everybody, but I'll keep going through. We also have mentor Zen with us.
Hello.
We have mentor Ankur,
Hello.
mentor Matt,
What's up, everyone?
and mentor James.
Hello.
And I got my audio working, so I think we're all set now. So today's topic is regarding how games are developed now versus how games were developed earlier on. So largely what this comes down to is looking at how in the past you had these big franchises, everything was planned around, everything was planned out way in advance, and now you have these kind of indie developers. You have, instead of one big voice, you have several different smaller developers creating these games, and what that all kind of means. So if everyone didn't already know, I am not much of a gamer. I mean, I always used to play games, but in recent years, I just haven't. I just ended up wasting my time playing games, and so as a principle, I tend not to unless I'm with other people. Then I'll play games. But what's everyone else playing? I'll circle around. So I'll start at the top with Zekram. What are you playing? Any games as of now?
So, more recently, it's like the past couple of months, I really haven't played much, but my one game that I sort of stick to and come back to is the Destiny franchise by Bungie, so Destiny 2 right now. That game just always seems to suck me back.
Nice. Zen?
Yeah, so I play a mix of indie and franchise-based games. Games that I've recently played, I play RimWorld a lot as of recently. And that's a one-man developer team. Very, very successful, huge game on Steam. I also play a lot of games by Paradox Interactive, so games that are like strategy-based, like Europa Universalis, games like that. And then I've also played recently Wargroove, which is a game by Chucklefish, another indie studio.
Nice. Ankur, you playing any games?
I don't play that many games, but when I do play games, I usually play Minecraft and I've played Portal a lot, and Portal 1 and 2. And sometimes I play Rocket League, but that's about it.
Nice. Matt?
Well, during the school year, I don't really have that much time to play games, but like when I do have time, same as somebody said earlier, I'm not sure who, but I play a lot of Paradox Interactive, like Hearts of Iron 4, maybe some Call of Duty as well.
Nice. And James?
Nowadays, I don't really play that many games, but occasionally I do play Minecraft.
Yeah. So Minecraft, it seems to be the stronghold for a little while. People are saying like Minecraft's out, Roblox is in, but it's still holding strong. Yeah, I haven't really played games. I haven't had a console, and my computer doesn't hold up too well to it. And I often use a lefty mouse, despite being a righty, so playing games doesn't work too well that way. But during the pandemic, I did what a lot of people did. I played like just the kind of party games like Jackbox games, Scribblio or Scribble.io, however you want to say it. And then sometimes if I see friends, I'll play Super Smash Brothers. I mean, everyone loves that game. But yeah, not too much gaming from me in recent years. But it's good to hear what games you're all playing. But I want to start our conversation off with some of the games that kind of the iconic original games that everyone knows of, held up against the test of time. So at the top of my mind, right off the bat, Super Mario and Zelda. These are games that started off when video games were super, super basic and have maintained throughout. Every year, there's going to be a game from one of them. I guess more so Super Mario, but what about you guys? Any other games you'd like to contribute to some of these early early franchises?
Well, while it hasn't received any sequels, I'd say Minecraft is a great example of showing an incredibly successful indie title, being I believe, the most sold beneath Wii Sports, which came for free with every Wii game, and like of all time, made originally by an indie team. I just think that, throughout its history, the game is over a decade old and has had its ups and downs, but still one of the most widely known like titles in gaming history. Really.
Another one to throw in there, sort of in the same vein as Minecraft, is Terraria, which is 14th on the like best-selling video games of all time lists, just under the likes of like Red Dead Redemption 2, which extreme popular, and even above Animal Crossing: New Horizons.
I would also say even Tetris, actually. I do know that they have competitions every year, and they release the new Tetris Effect, which I've played, and the graphics are insane. But that's definitely a game that really hasn't changed much, but people still play it.
Yeah, Tetris is one of those like arcade style games where it just hits, like, everyone knows who's played Tetris like for a long time, and I've played games like this. I've been never good at them, but like all of a sudden it's like you'll start like falling asleep at some point, and then you'll just realize you were like visualizing Tetris, and then like, okay, maybe I should lay off Tetris because that's not a good thing. That's not great.
Another big series that comes to my head is the Grand Theft Auto series. That's a very, very old one as well, and that one ranks just under Minecraft. Depending on how you consider Tetris's like sales, if you group them, every single Tetris that existed, but just the original, or like the one by EA, that's I believe it's just for mobile. GTA ranks second over GTA 5 specifically.
On that vein of like long-lasting series, I just one hit me, and I was like, wow, I don't know why I didn't think of this, because my handle is based off it. The Pokemon series, which really has a huge legacy now, with across shows and books and games and everywhere.
I don't know about you. Like, I feel like of all these games that we've listed that are just like enduring, it seems like they're all Nintendo.
A lot of them are Nintendo.
Yeah.
I think that's partially because Nintendo really, really sort of targeted almost our generation. So I know that like when I grew up, I had a Wii. That was one of my first consoles before even like getting like an Xbox or anything else. So I guess that I sort of just got targeted and sold to.
I mean, speak for yourself. My first video game console was Super Nintendo, but we are not of the same generation.
Well, that was sort of my
yeah.
my point.
Which I find it pretty ironic, considering an interesting fact. Nintendo was founded in 1889. Originally as like I think it was specifically a like game producer. They made
I think they made like card games, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which an interesting fact is Nintendo and the Ottoman Empire existed at the same time in history, which is a little bit weird. What I was going to touch on, out of how many Nintendo games, looking at the top 10 most sold game list, if you look at the top 10, 6 of them are Nintendo games. So that features Pokemon Red, Green, Blue, Yellow, Mario Kart 8, Wii Fit, and then that's Tetris again, but for Nintendo. And then there's Wii Sports and Super Mario Bros. So those are their top 6.
Zen with the historical facts. Yeah, it's kind of funny like hearing those stats, because I remember when I was younger, like PlayStation 2 came out. That's when like video games really took like a huge leap in terms of quality, and you see PlayStation 2 come out soon after. Xbox came out, maybe it came out before, but around the same time. And then what did Nintendo do? They didn't play that graphics battle. And I think a lot of people, definitely myself, thought these like they're not going to last if they're not trying to make more realistic things. And they clearly picked the right the right thing to do, because they haven't had to go down that battle of making the most realistic looking graphics. They've just made these games that, despite that, are wildly popular. So to bring it back to today's topic, so these are some of the games that are really popular and enduring, but there are also games that at their time were really popular that maybe they went for a while, but we don't talk about them as much today. We all read an article or looked at an article that referenced Assassin's Creed, which was very popular at the time, and of course everyone still knows about it now, but I don't think it's still as relevant as some of these other franchises that have just been. I mean, I think they're longer last. They're older than I am, and they're still killing it all the time. But kind of what the difference is between those games that we know of today and some of these other ones that we still know of, but they're not as relevant. And that is that a game such as Assassin's Creed has this whole mythos behind it, this whole story, a whole franchise built. But that worked when there were a few video game studios making these big blockbuster games. But now, I think, like Zen alluded to, there's all these indie developers out there. And I know some of you were saying that you play a lot of these indie games, some of which were developed by one person. I think Minecraft was pretty much just developed by, what's his name again?
Marcus Person.
What was that?
Marcus Person.
Yes. He goes, yeah. Oh, I thought he had a nickname.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you have these big franchises that now don't really work, and kind of why is that the case? Why is it that you can't, like, we still have these huge blockbuster games, right? Like, despite people making fun of Fortnite's still here. Despite people maybe making fun of Call of Duty, Call of Duty is here. It's not going anywhere. You know, why are well, getting to I think I'm repeating myself at this point, but I just want to compare kind of how those games were played back then versus how they're played now. Like when I was telling you guys earlier, when I would play games, I was just like in the basement, me, Super Mario, just playing it. Maybe my brother was there, and then we'd probably fight or something. But that was it. That was like as much sociability. Not only was there no like internet connection, you'd only had like 2 controllers you could plug into a console too. It was very much you and the medium and not much else. Whereas nowadays, everything is based on a kind of network. And as you know, the initial games that came out based on the internet and networking very often were like shooter games. I think SOCOM was one that my cousin had way back when. And some of these early games where that's all there was, it was just the game. But now it expands way beyond that. People play games not only on just the consoles, they have it on their computers and their phones. They play it within various apps. I think everybody has like an aunt or uncle who played like Farmville on Facebook, which I'm pretty sure was just a scheme to get a bunch of people's data. Don't check that for yourself. I'm not positive on that, but probably not the greatest game to be playing, if that's what the point is. But I think that's the difference, that everything is networked now and versus back then, and what networking has done, because it is no longer just that one video game studio making that game that I'm going to be sitting alone in my basement playing. I'm connected to everyone. And what that's done is it's kind of fractured everyone off into these little groups where you can have like this dedicated group of people who are really into one thing versus just a couple of entities dictating that. I don't know. Does anybody else have any thoughts on? I talk too much.
Yeah.
Anyone else have something
I think
to
it all
contribute?
really like boils down to technology, right? Because when originally these games are being produced, in, for example, Pac-Man, large companies would have to spend tons of time to create a solution to make video games with very, very limited technology. It was super hard to get into. And now, as technology has continued on, people have computers that are capable of running more than just filing your taxes in your home. And the barrier for entry for game developers to create their own projects have stepped down from multi-million-dollar studios and can become a 13-year-old in their, in their room. They want to learn how to use these powerful engines that come onto their computers. And I just think this technology level has made it super accessible for people. And so that's why it's really changed the market. You have old companies like Namco, Atari, and Nintendo has managed to stay in the top throughout all this time because of their ability to modernize. But you see a lot more of these companies able to come up with ideas way quicker because of just, the market has become more saturated through that.
Mm-hmm. And sort of to lead onto that, the idea that someone in their room at 13 could create a game that could go on to sell on a platform. Like when you look at Steam, it isn't hard to get a game on Steam if you're an indie developer. Like compared to making arcade cabinets, like there's no comparison. It's comparatively insanely easier, and I think the internet had a lot to do with that too, because like you see a lot of these like single player games even with cult followings. So like you said, Doug, that you would play like a game in your basement with your brother, and that was the extent of your communication about the game. But now, like even a game that you might play by yourself with your brother in your basement is something that you might talk to people around the globe about, which created these little communities around gaming and around individual games even.
Yeah, and I think there's also all these platforms that serve gaming communities. I mean, Discord probably above all others, but there's a ton out there, and it gives these areas where people can talk about the games, play the games together, stream themselves playing games together, and they're not doing it on these big platforms. If they're streaming, they're not doing it on a big platform like YouTube or Twitch. They're just doing it maybe with their friends. Maybe their friends have nothing to do. They just want to watch one of their friends play. And it's exactly like you said. You have these much tighter groups, and it's going to be harder for one person to dictate down to everyone else when they're all in their separate areas.
I think one of the interesting things about modern video game culture also is how like decentralized it's become from larger corporations' involvement, really. When you think of the companies such as like, Blizzard, I named before, Paradox, Activision, a lot of them are companies created with and for the sole intention of making games. You see very little until like, recently I'll talk about New World as a MMO that Amazon has just started to produce, but mostly the gaming market has been saturated by independent developers or large developing teams based around gaming rather than other large companies coming into the gaming market. And I think that's created an interesting like method of how games are produced. There's a lot less with corporate interference. There's a lot less games that are just made for the sake of franchises. I know that happens a lot with like, and you see it happening in like Call of Duty, right? Lots of these games, you can see that they have deadlines that are given to them on a corporate level where they come out and they are behind just because, some company wants to get them out. But there's a lot of these companies, that are not based around this. Why you see so many indie titles doing so well in a market. It's definitely very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And to just sort of peg off that the deadlines idea, we saw this happen with like Cyberpunk most recently, where Cyberpunk as a game was a great concept. It's like I haven't played it personally, but I've heard that it itself would have been an amazing game if it wasn't pushed through far earlier than it should have been. It should have had a lot more time to be developed and grown, but sort of, I almost want to class as like corporate greed or more like shareholder interests cause the game to lose character, to lose functionality in the sake of like making money. And we see that a lot with like everyone knows that Activision is the greediest corporation that make games pretty much.
Yeah, I think those are end of quarter and quarterly earnings that are pushing those situations. But also, I think something interesting is just the ability for distribution of gaming. Like when I was a kid, it wasn't even CDs; it was cartridges. We had, the cartridges that would go inside Super Nintendo, Sega, stuff like that, and eventually got CDs. And now we just don't have that. I mean, I guess you do, but everyone's using Steam. They're downloading things. And what that allows is people to, like, someone could push a game, and if it's like there's a bug in it, they could just push an update. I mean, this is the case with all software, but especially with these indie developers, you'll see these like situations in which you have an indie developer, maybe it's just one person making a game with like a very small but dedicated interest group, and they may kind of crowdsource that. They'll have like a Kickstarter, Patreon, Indiegogo, whatever, and they'll have funders, and the funders in turn will get to be a part of their Discord channel. They get to get early, they get early access to the game, and they can give their feedback. They can make contributions, and that's really the big difference I see. And what we saw in that one article was that the actual consumers, the fans of these games, are having a real impact and say in how these games are developed, and especially with the technology that we have now and platforms, it allows for this rapid back and forth of these ideas and the actual results.
I think I think I sort of touched on this before, but you just sort of said it more succinctly. The current game industry is almost a no cost, a no risk venture for a lot of these indie developers. You see people like Notch, who built Minecraft as just like a one-off, like almost joke game, just something that he was experimenting with by combining two other concepts from different games that he liked. And someone like Zen was saying, a 13-year-old in their room can make a game, and they can push that to a platform like Steam for no cost, with no risk, no investment in making infrastructure, making cartridges, having to like get shelf space at stores. So it's almost like what happened with ebooks, how almost anyone can make an ebook and put it online for nearly nothing. And that's sort of the same thing that happened with gaming.
Yeah, exactly. You have all of the technology you need in order to do it, and then you also have free licenses for really powerful engines. Of course, Unity being probably the most popular. But yeah, like all these things kind of combine together, and I think we're just seeing the beginning of kind of a new trajectory for gaming. We were talking a little bit before about also some parallels that we could see with this. So I know I had brought up, there's this concept of, in the past, a lot of movies used to be led by a specific director. Like everyone knows who Steven Spielberg is, right? Yeah. And there's these other huge directors, and in the past, you would go see, you'd hear about this movie. It's made by this director, and you might go see it. That does not happen today. The only person I can think of would be Christopher Nolan. You know of directors, but you're not going out to see a movie because a director made it. Like, yeah. What movies are you going to go out to see? You're going to go out to see the Marvel movies. Kids are going to go see Disney movies. They are these big franchises, but there's a big difference. These franchises have a lot of interaction with their fans. Like the fans contribute to it. And Zekrom, I think you had maybe the best example I can think of in books.
So sort of the fan fiction of Harry Potter, how the Harry Potter series in itself has pretty much been dead and gone for a long time, other than that sort of like weird play that was put out semi recently, that I personally haven't read because it's not interesting. But if you load up a website like fanfiction.com, or even like Archive of Our Own, I think is like the archive site that a lot of people use, there are writers, amateur writers and experienced writers, literally writing remakes and all sorts of fan fiction for the Harry Potter universe. And it's sort of the same thing with gaming that's going on now.
Yeah, so, and I think another really good example of this is Star Wars. Like, people, like, there's the Star Wars canon, but there's all these other Star Wars stories that are written by a whole variety of people that are very popular among their fans. And I'm pretty sure George Lucas and team fought very hard to maintain like control of the franchise, but that's clearly not how it's controlled now, and it works very well for them. It's, you know, one of the most successful franchises for decades. And I think that that's kind of actually what the conversation is. It's not really these franchises versus indie developers, but it's more so a top-down approach to game development versus a crowdsourced and community-driven game development. Because as we showed before, there are massive franchises that are still super relevant, and it's crazy like how old some of these are. Once again, I think they're older than me, some of them. They predate so much of the technology we have, but they're still popular just because generation after generation gets to control, gets to add to these franchises, and they adapt to whoever picks them up.
Yeah.
And then we also, just to tag on, there is also this kind of concept of just new game styles. So like, once again, when I was just playing a game, you know, one-on-one with console, say it's Super Mario Brothers, like, what is a game? Like, I'm controlling a sprite on a screen, but what am I doing? Am I solving a maze? There's all these different varieties, obviously, we know, but the initial thought of what a video game was existed before we had the internet, before we had networking. And so you have games now where like I've never played Animal Crossing, but I know a ton of people play it. I don't even know if there's gameplay to it. All I see is that people like to customize their characters, and they like almost kind of just like hang out in virtual space with people in a way, more generally speaking now. So you have these kind of like open sandbox things. I mean, Minecraft is the best example of this, probably. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that's especially relevant because you even see it in more structured games. So I said that I play Destiny, for the most part. It's one of the only games that I really play. And there's this sort of meme that hangs around the community, which Destiny has a very, very cultish following, where if you're a Destiny player, you're a Destiny player sort of thing. That fashion is the true end game, because you can customize your character's armor and appearance. So once people get bored of fighting aliens for the 1400th time, they go and they customize their character, and then they battle it out on Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like a lot of these franchise games, like from the big companies, like they never actually developed like some sort of cult fan base. Like the people that they target to play these games are not necessarily the people to join a cult fan base anyway. It's like a very mainstream audience. Like they pick up the game, then the next the new one comes out, and then they pick it up. Like these are the people that they target. I feel like, at least for like maybe Call of Duty, Black Ops, it's mainly like the console people who don't really get involved in the community.
Yeah, it's kind of they're not targeting anyone particular, so they have to kind of target everybody, and so there's nothing really specific for anyone to latch onto. It's all there's nothing there's for like a niche group of people to really like. It's everyone will be like, okay, that's cool, but no one's gonna be like all about it.
That's sort of what happened with like sort of like the passing fad games is how I consider them, like PUBG, Fortnite, those like the arena shooter genre was sort of this because it still exists. A lot of people still play them, but it really was at like the height of its popularity. Everyone was playing them. I put that in quotes because I certainly was not, but everyone, quotation marks included, was playing them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit, even I played it, not much, but I did. But yeah, that kind of, you know, I guess Fortnite wasn't the first to do what it does, but it was the first to get popular, and everyone kind of latched onto it. And there are these kind of like products and projects that are useful once everyone does it. And not that Fortnite needs everyone, or a game like Fortnite needs everyone to do it, but everyone liked joining in. It was all over memes and all over social media. But now you have a bunch of games that do a similar thing. Like even Call of Duty has put in a form of gameplay like Fortnite. But then again, you even see Fortnite has their own sandbox mode, right? I forget what they call it. Or you got to just
I think.
what was that?
I think it's just creative.
It's Save the World?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
No, no, just when yeah, exactly, creative, where you get to like create things. And I know at the end of like the short stint I played Fortnite, I was just like trying to recreate the crab in the creative mode, the crab and the fox. But yeah, I think that kind of we kind of summed it up there. It's the way game development has gone is changing, and the people who play them have a lot more say in how they get made. Does anybody else have any last remarks they'd like to add? I think we're running out of time with our segment here.
Nope. I've said all. I think makes sense.
I think that about like sums up everything that.
All right. So, oh yeah, there was what I do have one fact that I do need to add before we wrap it up for today. Apparently, I just looked this up just before we started. Tech Talk was apparently the name of MIT's official newspaper for decades, actually until 2009, which I guess then they folded. But I didn't know that. I guess they're not using the name anymore, so we'll happily take it up. But I also see a lot of people are using this name. Just a fun fact I wanted to drop in there. So that's it for today. We're going to have future tech talks in the upcoming dark mode streams. After this, we have a segment that I'm not sure if I'm going to call it Watch Me Work or Project Update, but I'm going to work on a microphone isolator in CAD so you can see what that is all about and how I work about developing things that I'm ultimately going to produce in real life. This isn't code. And then after that, we have the Game Jam results and winners. So stick around.